I love KiwiSaver, but here's what scares me about it. You can be doing what you think is the right thing, putting money in, leaving it alone, and still end up tens of thousands behind where you could have been. Because KiwiSaver is brilliant. I love it. You already know that. But it actually needs just a couple of little tweaks to make sure that you're putting in the exact same money and getting further ahead. Welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week we talk to people in the industry and get that inside word on what's happening right now, what that means for the tactics you should use to make the most of your money. Now, New Zealanders are pouring billions into KiwiSaver. It's how many of us get into our first home. It's a really important nest egg, and yet many of us treat it like a savings account with just a side of wishful thinking. The good side of this is that fixing it can actually be super quick, maybe even take less time than listening to this podcast. So we're going to get it all off that set and forget. We've got Kristin Sutherland from EnableMe.
Making Sense has partnered up with EnableMe to get you the strategies for reaching financial freedom faster. Whether you're wanting to get mortgage-free or grow your wealth through investments, they've got the team to help you. Head to their website to learn more. Visit enable.me today.
Making Sense is on a mission to make money simple, and I just couldn't do that without the support of KiwiBank. It's really important to me to only work with companies that understand that mission. And for KiwiBank, their purpose is to help Kiwi and Aotearoa be better off. So bringing you real stories of different approaches to finance is one of the ways they're making a difference to the lives of their customers. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. All right, Kristin, thank you so much for this. When you're talking to people about KiwiSaver, is there a common issue that comes up with it, a common problem?
I think for a lot of people it's the bury your head in the sand. Oh, I'm not going to think about it. I know it's there. Someone has set it up for me. They don't know very much about it. So it is really the problem of it's a set and forget. And they don't think about actually it's quite an active thing, not too much because I don't need people out there doing it all the time, but I do want them to just be checking in with it and not just set and forget. So things like, your employer might set it up, they'll put you in a fund and when your employer does that, it's quite a conservative fund. So, in New Zealand, the latest statistics from sort of 2024 is we've got 660,000 New Zealanders in their default fund. That's 20% of all people from KiwiSaver still sitting in their default fund. And that's generally not a fund type that's going to give us a lot of growth or, just be suited to our goals necessarily. So biggest mistake, I think, is that set and forget attitude that we have and not checking in on it to make sure it's the right type, that it fits our goals, and that it's achieving what we need it to, and that it's aligned with what you want. Because, there's different things in KiwiSaver. We could have a fund that, fits with some of our other ethical considerations. So, don't set and forget.
This is the thing. I think through especially all the COVID ups and downs, there was this really strong message of leave it alone, just let it do its thing, which is true and which I have said to people many times, but it's also a balance where it's not entirely ignore it. It's put it in the right place and then let it do its thing and then give it its time. Putting it in the right place first, still super important, right?
Very important. And it's getting it in that right place and knowing what that is for you. So that's not the same for everyone. We're all at different stages of our life. We're all at different stages of what we're trying to achieve in terms of our goals. So what is it you want out of it, and put it in the right fund type for that.
Yes. Okay. And I think that's another key thing as well, right? KiwiSaver is a bit funny in that we've got the two purposes for it, where it is your retirement fund, yes, but it's also the way that most people get into their first home. And that can change the timeline on it. And the timeline is really key for what you want to do with it, right? How do you balance that all out?
Yeah, and it is a balance, and it is about people thinking about that bigger picture of what am I trying to achieve long term. So if the first home is the goal, and it is for so many Kiwis, I mean, we love that, we love getting into first home, and I'm as a financial advisor, I'm very supportive of that. I do think, property has a place as alongside funds, but it has a place to build longer term wealth for people. So very supportive of first home. But if people are going to do it, it has to be a balance of doing it right, making sure we get the most growth possible in the correct fund type. So making sure we're paying attention to what type of fund we're in, leading up to doing that withdrawal for the first home. So whenever there's a big change in our life, we need to be looking at KiwiSaver and adapting what it is. So something like if we're saving for our first home and we know there's a withdrawal coming up, we might need to change the fund type to make sure we're protecting that balance before we get there. But then once we've done it and we've got the home, we've achieved that goal, and that's amazing, we then have to make sure we continue to contribute to KiwiSaver. So, I always say to clients, whatever your employer's doing, we're going to match it at the bare minimum. Like we're going to match that so that we, make use of that, because it's effectively a 3% pay rise for people. If you're not in it and you're getting 3% less than someone who is in it. So making sure when you use that fund that you then, after you use it, continue to leave $1,000 in there. So it's still an eligible fund, and keep doing your contributions. We want to also make sure our government contributions continue to go in. There's been lots of talk around this government contribution and it going down, but I was doing some numbers because I love numbers. So I was doing numbers the other day. Even that $260 government contribution, that now is what the government contribution is as of 1st of July 2025. If that is put in, I'm taking a 20-year-old, so I'm taking the longest, period of time possibly, but say you're 20 and you're looking at, am I going to do KiwiSaver? If they have $260 going in at a 5% growth, which is quite possible in a fund type that you would be looking at for that age group over 40 years until they retire, it's $32,000 that they get. It's not insignificant. So, I'd like people to...
I wouldn't say no to that.
That's right. I wouldn't say no to $32,000 either. So make sure that fund type is now right for the next stage. And the next stage is we want to grow it. So I say to clients, what are you most comfortable with and you can sleep at night? And we want it to be as aggressive as possible in that period because we've got time. If we've got more than 10 years, I want them to go as aggressive as they can. Still got to sleep. So it does have to match your, risk portfolio, but do it as aggressive as you can and get it growing over the long term. And that will set you up again because we've depleted it and we want to set up again for retirement.
Not so fun fact, when you take on a 30-year mortgage, you'll probably pay more than double what you originally borrowed because of the cost of interest. That's probably not the Kiwi dream you bought into. The team at EnableMe specialise in taking charge of your money and growing your wealth, including how to get rid of your mortgage faster. Book a consultation with an EnableMe financial advisor today by visiting enable.me.
Life looks different for everyone. Maybe you're buying your first home, growing your whānau, dreaming of travel, or simply trying to stay on top of things. KiwiBank has the tools to help you manage your money your way. Find out more at kiwibank.co.nz. This is making Kiwi better off. This is Kiwi. I've seen some fairly heated debate amongst personal finance nerds, my favourite people. And I'll not lie as well. I do love a good personal finance nerd squabble. It's quite fun to watch, as long as nobody's yelling at me. But it's one of those things that does get debated where people will say, well, this is supposed to be your retirement savings and it shouldn't be used for a first home because you are massively depleting it. You are losing everything those investments would have earned you over time. You have to start again. The flip side being, okay, but house prices are insane and we have to help people out somehow. And how else are people meant to do it in the current environment? Like, yes, there are levers we could pull that might make a difference 10 years down the track. People don't always have that long to wait. And so there is this real tension of what might be best on paper versus what people need in reality. And do you want to pick a side on that debate?
Well, yes, I'm quite happy to pick a side. And it is what's right for that person. And I know that, we hark back to that as financial advisors where it's like, what's right for you? Because what your goal is long-term has to fit the strategy that you do along the way. So if long-term we're looking to get you into a home and that's your goal, if that's your goal long-term, then let's do that and use the KiwiSaver. The advantage, I guess some of the pros of doing it are we get you into property. Property in New Zealand, as you've referred to, we have had good growth in property. So 7.5% average over the last 30 years in property price growth. What we do when we get people into properties, we leverage their investment. So, we're leveraging that KiwiSaver. So say we're taking our 100,000 out of KiwiSaver or whatever it is that people need to do. We are leveraging that. And for people who, don't know leverage, it's being able to buy something that's more expensive than the money you've got. We're funding it from the bank to do that. And then our growth is based on that whole investment. So we're taking, an unleveraged product that is KiwiSaver at that point, and we're leveraging it into property, and we're getting people towards the goal that they want. So it is always back to the goal. What do you want to achieve? If it really is you really want to live in your own home, then we use the tools we've got, and KiwiSaver is a fantastic tool for that. So I would sit on the side of the fence. I am supportive of that. But then I do want people to then start rebuilding again, because effectively, as I said, it's a 3% pay rise that you're getting if you go into it. So don't then ignore it. Get back into it. Get into the right fund type. Do your minimum contribution per year of $1,041 that we need to put in, and keep it building. And then you've got both the leverage of property and funds investment, and you've got a little bit of a diversification.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of where I land on it, is it's not a perfect choice. But what is in this world? And I kind of feel like for most people, that's just going to be how you're going to get into your first home. And it's acknowledging that it's not a perfect choice, and then moving as fast as you can to rebuild afterwards. And exactly what you were saying there, making sure you've got those contributions in, getting as aggressive with it as fits your goals. I mean, I have personally found the more and more that I've learned about money, the more comfortable I am being, I'm almost conservatively aggressive. Like I am in an aggressive fund type, but it's into assets that I am totally confident have a very long track record. I mean, my KiwiSaver isn't going into Bitcoin. If someone else's is, that's fine. You do you, boo. But it's aggressive, but into asset types that I'm really comfortable with. I understand how they work. I understand why they've gone down, if they go down, and that helps give me the sleep at night test. That I understand what's going on with it. It's not freaking me out because I'm like, ugh. And I feel like that's also part of it. If you pay a bit more attention to it, you learn a bit more. You do things like listen to podcasts. Obviously, I'm biased. I think that's great. But, you listen to things that help keep you up to date with it. You're going to feel more comfortable making those slightly more aggressive moves afterwards for the recovery, right?
That's it. And I think, being informed and being educated takes that fear away. And for some people, I do think it is a fear of the unknown. There's a lot in finance. It's a bit of a scary place sometimes. But if you can learn a little bit, and it doesn't have to be all at once, but, just taking that first step and finding out, what is it, that KiwiSaver can do, and how much could I accumulate? Like I'd love giving clients numbers and saying, if you just contributed the minimum, they're $1,040 per year, and we got a 5% return on that over a 40-year period, we'd end up with $124,000. Like, that's significant. And putting that real, it's like, think what you could do with $124,000. It's trying to put it into those real terms in your own mind to say, okay, this matters. Like, it really matters. Take action is the key. Is you've got to go out and just start with something. So start with something small. Just find out, what sort of return I might get from KiwiSaver, or, what is KiwiSaver? Who provides it? Like, whatever you need to do, take action and just start.
Yeah. And you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation as well about, different choices at different stages of your financial life, your KiwiSaver life. When someone is making those choices and they're sort of deciding how often to check in on their KiwiSaver, once you've sort of said, okay, I've bought a house, now I'm thinking for the next 30 years sort of thing, do you do many changes to your KiwiSaver from then? I'm thinking particularly fund type, conservative, growth, whatever. Do you check in on that very often once you've set that?
A really good place to start on that is just whenever there's a big life change. So we all know what big life changes are. We get married, we have a child, we move house. Whenever you do something significant, use that as a bit of a check-in point of, is my goal of when I set up the KiwiSaver still the same as now? Because clearly our, young home buyers who their goal was a first home and they got there, it's going to be a different fund type after that. And this depends on the person. So if markets are volatile, for some people, they like to stay informed and know what's going on. For most people, I think it's like, don't look. Because if you're in the right fund type, we know that things are going to go up and down. So it depends on your personality. So start with big life events. If you're a really routine-based person, make it an annual check-in. Like, just like you do with the dentist or something, tie it to something else so that you can say, when I go to the dentist, I'm going to check on my KiwiSaver and know that I can log in. I do this test with my clients. So we meet, maybe regularly for clients, maybe not. And I always say to them, can you just tell me your KiwiSaver balance? All I'm doing is that they can log in and, I'm checking and they're like, oh, hang on. And I'm like, that tells me you haven't checked this very often. So good check. I challenge everyone, log into your KiwiSaver. Can you do it?
It depends if it's saved in my password manager. I'm going to have to check that. Look, if someone hasn't done any of this until now, what's a first step, do you think, in order to make sure their KiwiSaver is on track and is hitting their goals?
Yeah. So if you're really unengaged with it, which so many people are, it is take action. Who's your fund provider? Just go and find out who your fund provider is. That's the first step. Have you got one? I'm assuming at this point they might have it. If you don't, sign up. I've had a number of clients come along, not signed up. And once I sort of say it's a pay rise, like it's effectively a pay rise, just take that. Like we'll do the minimum. We'll take the 3%. We'll match the 3%. We'll take the government contribution, and we'll over your lifetime build up a few $100,000. But if you haven't done it, go and investigate, maybe with your HR department, what it is to sign up. If you do, who's your provider? Next step, what's your fund type? Is that suited to my age? So if we're more than 10 years away from needing to use that money, not necessarily retirement, because for some people they retire and they don't need to use that money straight away. So when do you need to use that money? If you're more than 10 years away, be as aggressive as you can. Sleep at night, but be aggressive.
You're absolutely speaking my language. It's so good. Thank you so much. That's Kristin Sutherland from EnableMe. Now, if this episode was helpful to you, first of all, hit subscribe wherever you listen to Making Sense, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or follow you wherever. But make sure you're there to get the best tips and tricks for your money every week. And of course, send it on to a friend so we can all level up our money together. Until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go, this podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.